is it that time already? I
It
mean,
is that time.
it seems like just yesterday that we were talking with Miguel of Crowned Heads, and now here we are back, and it's you and I, and we're back for another pairing.
It's just the two of us.
Just
Just
the
the
two
two
of
of
us.
And I'm gonna say, like, I'm really ecstatic because I love my crafted beers. So, like, I'm beyond excited. We've done a couple crafted beers, but not really dove into it. So, I'm excited about this.
I'm
So,
excited too, and what's funny is that I think it was Saturday that Bert was almost spamming, and it was great because he was like, "What are we gonna do? What are you guys gonna do?" I was
mhm,
like, "I don't know," and all of a sudden he's like going with a whole bunch of ideas around liqueurs, and I love the ideas because we haven't
mhm,
done just a liqueur style pairing.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, well, maybe we each pick a liqueur and we do a food, and then you
mhm,
came back and it's like, no, no, let's keep it simple. It's hot, and it happens to be a bit cooler today because of the
yeah,
rain and the wind, but it's like
mhm,
it's hot. Let's do a craft beer and a cigar, and just no food. And
mhm,
I'm like,
yeah.
whoa,
Because,
that's like
because
adventurous.
yeah, and the reason is like just kind of example is like when it gets really freaking hot out, and like even though I'm in the cigar lounge, which is actually called the cigar lounge. So I want to give a shout out and thank them for allowing me to do this in air conditioning. Even though I was up here working today, I appreciate it for them allowing me to stay. And but the thing was is like when it's hot, I don't feel like eating. I really don't. It doesn't matter like what all's going on. I just don't want a big full meal. And I was even thinking about let's do a dessert, kind of a thing. But I was just kind of like, oh, I've been like since my daughter's turned 21, my other daughter turned 20, we've been hitting breweries, having, some
Yeah.
stout and some other stuff. So I was in the mood. I probably gained like 15 pounds just because of the amount of beer I've been drinking, but that's okay. So uh, I'm excited about it. It's what I'm passionate about, just kind of like you like your bourbon. I love my beer, and I especially love my crafted beer. So I kind of wanted to talk about what crafted beer and all that stuff is, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, I would love to see what crafted beer you have picked and what stogie you are going to stoke with it.
Okay, well, I
Oh,
am
did we
going
even
with,
introduce ourselves?
you know, no, we
If you don't
didn't.
know who we are, that's that. No, I'm just
If you don't know who we are, just read because
kidding.
that there it's there on mine and
Right
there on
there.
hers. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't read, then what the hell are you doing smoking cigars and drinking beer? You need to go back
No.
to grade school.
Whoa, he went all the way. No, we welcome
uh,
everybody to watch our show.
yes, we do. We do. So I am drinking one of my absolute favorites.
Hmm.
And you know how I mean, your beer like beyond, your beer like I know my bourbon, like you posted.
Yeah.
But I do know my beer, and you do know your
Yeah.
bourbon, just to not to the
Yeah.
same degree.
Right.
But I love a good stout. I could drink a stout at any point in time. So I am going with
Oh,
Goose
shoot. I
Island.
should have known. I should have known. I should have known. So,
Eh,
and I'm
This is
gonna like
this is
argue with some
2021.
people. Oh, that's a good one. So I'm gonna sit here and fight people on this one because a lot of people say I only drink stouts when it's winter. It's too heavy for me. Blah 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 blah. Um,
Wah.
I I had a stout the other day. I'm always with the stout, and I appreciate you drinking it out of the proper glass, stout glass. That's good. Um, and then
Eh,
people who are fussing at him with the head, it is okay that he has that much head on a beer because you don't want to put it to where you don't have very much head. Because when you have just a little bit of head, my head's already fizzled down. You're getting you're allowing the beer to interact and get chemically in there. So don't be
It
hating
it
on him because
it it,
of his head.
it yeah. I was gonna say it may not be late enough for me to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I always like a good head.
You know how I was gonna say it because that's my
But
go-to. So what are you pair?
is
What are
it
you
isn't
pairing
that?
with?
I just
It's
want to talk
beautiful.
about. I mean, that is a beautiful head right there.
And so for those who do not know, that is actually a barrel stout, correct?
Yes, yes, it is.
Hmm.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's
and it's
okay.
aged in a bourbon barrel, if I remember correctly.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this one is the 2021 edition, and it's my last one that I have.
Oh my gosh.
So I am
Are you gonna
going
try it?
with no, but I
You
want you
better
to
pick a
see.
really good cigar with this, because if it's gonna be something bad, I'm gonna be mad at you.
Well, I'm going to show you the cello before I show you the cigar.
Okay. You know I like yellow. Ooh, look at that. Like you don't even have to twist it to see that.
It's the Killer
Oh.
Bee.
Ah, that's gonna be cool. That's gonna be a
The
good pairing. Okay, I approve. I
Killer
approve.
Bee Lancero.
Yep. So, I am going with my crafted beer right here, and that brewery is up north, out of Chicago, where your beer is made, and stout, I should say. And it's a freaking good brewery. Just gonna say that. So, okay, so here's mine. So we're gonna kind of talk about craft beers for the whole show. So this is the one that I am doing. It is called Wacka Brew, and it's a blood orange Hefeweizen. Hefeweizen. I like to say it like that because
Hefeweiser.
it's fun.
Hefeweiser.
Hefeweizen. Hefeweizen. Yeah.
I can't
So
get my voice that high.
yeah. So I poured mine, and my head has died down, but I had a big head. I do have a big head. But here's my thing.
You do have a big head.
So here is if you we have Lazy Dogs, which is a restaurant down here,
Hmm.
and they have a beer of a month, quarterly beer
I'm a
thing,
member.
which you're a member. So they were running a special, and I joined. I was like, why not? So anyway, so this is what they have. It's from Roadhouse Brewing, and this is actually from. I love it because look, it's got a grizzly bear on it,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
it's from Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Isn't
And
that
I was
where
really
you went
shocked.
on vacation last
It
year?
is where I went on vacation last year. And let me tell you, Wyoming, Minnesota, like Wyoming had a lot of amazing microbreweries. Um, and it was mainly from their state that they had the beers for everywhere I went. And I had so many good beers. And like one of my favorite breweries that was up there was actually Yellowstone. And one cool thing is, so first we're going to talk about crafted beers before I get into the story, and then I'm going to come back to the story. And um, so some people are like, "What is crafted beer? What sets crafted beer apart from regular beer? What makes it crafted?" So first of all, they're made at small breweries. There's no machine that's behind it. They only use the best ingredients. And in fact, if they do not use specific certain, like the best of the ingredients, they cannot be considered a crafted beer. It can't be considered a crafted beer. So it has to have the
Really?
best hops. Yeah, yeah. So if they add a low cost malt to it or hop, they can't consider it a crafted beer.
So what is it considered then?
It's a beer. It's a
Just a
regular
beer?
beer. It's a beer. Like
Is there a
it's
difference
like
between a
Miller
craft?
Lite.
Okay, so is there a difference between a crafted beer and a micro brew?
So your microbreweries usually make the crafted beers. So you have the microbreweries making the crafted beer because it's a small brewery on a small scale and they're doing it by hand. There's not any machines that are doing it. You have the canisters, whatever. I can't think of what the little silver things are. Oh, you know how they have it with bourbon?
The the stills?
Yes, thank you. Exactly. Distilled. Yeah. So they could have that, but they don't have the machines pouring the beer in. Like everything is done by hand and it's done with the best things. It's more of it's it's non-mechanized. The beer is non-mechanized when they're doing the beer. So when they're brewing the beer. So that's what craft beer. It's the best hops, the best malts, the best yeast, the even purified water. They will purify it like several times. And when you do that, when you're using the best ingredients, you're going to get a more flavorful beer. So, and I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not picking on Anheuser-Busch. I'm not picking on Miller Lite. I'm not picking on Coors. But there's that expression is with people who drink crafted beers, who go for the bougie beers, beer snobs. They call that other stuff piss water. And it's only because, it's a lot of stuff coming out. It's not the best ingredients, and they're making thousands upon thousands in a second. It's like
I,
insane how much beer they can produce in a day. The big
I,
breweries.
yeah, and I would say that mainstream beer,
Hmm.
the
We'll say
Coors,
it that
Coors
way. Yeah.
Light,
Hmm.
Keystone, all of those mainstream beers, the beer, even in a lager, which a lot,
Hmm.
I mean, lager is what most of those are. That falls into
Hmm.
that classification of a beer.
Hmm.
So even in a craft lager compared to say like a Budweiser, the craft lager has more body to it. It has more
Yeah.
intensity of flavors, variety of
Hmm.
flavors, and it's almost like I would equate it as comparing a boutique cigar to a Monte Cristo. Which Monte
Right.
Cristo has years and years, you
Hmm.
know, over a century probably of history
Hmm.
behind it, and are great cigars. But
Right.
you can very much distinguish a boutique cigar from a Monte Cristo, and not picking on Monte Cristos. I mean, because the
Right.
same can go for many of the different main lines. The
Hmm.
same applies to beer. Now,
Right.
my question is almost like I'm interviewing you now. Um, my question is like when you go to like you go to Raw Brewery, or you go to
Hmm.
some of the micro breweries that we
Hmm.
have, because we have a lot. I mean, we have a
Yeah,
massive
we
amount
do.
here in DFW, and you go in and you go into their brewery, and you see the big stills, and and the
Hmm.
vats and such, and you see where the mash bill.
That's the words you were talking about, the vats and all that. See, I couldn't
Yeah,
think today.
you see where all those the mash bills are being going through the fermentation process, and stuff
Hmm.
like that, because they do have machinery, but it's not on the
Hmm.
scale of Miller. If we were to go down to Miller, down the
Right.
a couple of miles down the street, down 35,
But
we wouldn't see we would see some of that in the micros, but not as that vast. Is that what keeps it
right.
as a craft?
Yeah. It's not, it's like, it's the people making sure that they're doing the work to those. They'll have like the machinery that maintains it and keeps it, but they're still like in control. Like where the mainstream breweries, it's not like that.
It's all
They're the one,
automated.
like it's all automated, and they can
Gotcha.
tell where the thing is with the machine. But if you go to like the microbreweries, you still see the people pouring stuff in, mixing up
Yeah,
things, making sure they're still stirring, even though it's there. They are still very hands on with it. So that's what makes the difference for it.
and
So,
I love, and I've never toured, and I would love to go and
hmm.
tour Coors, or go and tour Miller, or an
Hmm.
Anheuser-Busch, just for the experience and for the history, because as much as those of us who are into crafts, and we don't
Hmm.
care for it, it doesn't mean it's a bad
But it
product.
started out that way. You got to
But
think
yes,
when
it started out that
it
way.
started out that way. and the really cool thing is I took my kids to where it all started with Anheuser-Busch, with things like that. So we got to see how it worked, how it started off, and so all the big beers kind of started off as microbreweries. So I'm going to say that, but now they've become huge. So what I'm hearing it with is, I don't know if y'all can see it. This is one of my father's. It is Vegas Cubana by Don Pepin Garcia. It's with my father's. Um, it is, I mean, hands down, this is probably my favorite from my father's. And if you're wondering what color the van's, because we talked about that, it's that neon green. Um, and I'm thinking I've never paired it with uh, with a craft beer. So it'll be normally I've paired it with wine. I've done a red wine with it, so we're gonna try it out.
I'm
But
glad you mentioned pairing because I forgot completely about it. I mean, to the point that my head went all the way down, and so I had to refill to get a little bit of it.
you deflated.
I deflated.
So,
It went limp.
hmm
Yes, but man, this cigar is so good. We're going to be flagged as adult only.
I know
Wait a
adult
minute, we
only,
are.
which it should be. I mean, it should be.
We already are.
So,
If you're not
yeah.
21, just fake it. Fake it till you turn it.
so,
Oh
so we
wow, that
talked
is.
about like, and people
Oh,
think that beer has just been around, but it's been like 1800 BC. Okay, I'm getting to that. I am getting to that. So
I
let's
know
take
the
y'all down.
answer.
So yeah, and that's probably why he asked that question. So around 1800 BC, actually it was Japan who actually paid homage to a goddess for beer. And the thing is women used to only make beer in Japan. It was the women who made it because of how delicate they were, how precise they were, their taste, their smell. So women were actually known to produce the best beer, and the best beer about that time came from Japan. Just kind of what FYI. So that's when I just got to throw that out there. Some people
See,
may not know that.
this could be one of your mini segments of fine ash
I need
fat.
to get back to. Did you know? Red needs to do that. Ash Red needs to
Yes.
know fun facts. I haven't
Get,
done that. I've forgotten that.
well,
So
we need to record them so that we can bring those in on here and say, and now we're going to
hmm
take a brief pause for Reds. Did you know? Or Graybeard's insights.
right. So in 580, uh, Saint Arnold, who is the patron of the beers, he actually helped in the plague because he told people to stop drinking water and drink beer. So that's how the plague ended. So and then in 1516, which is a law came into effect, and it was known as the Purity Law, and it's still in effect today. And it said that you can only beers can only be made with barley and hops, water, yeast, and malt. So, and it's called the Purities. So it's still in effect today. So then Prohibition hit, and guess what that did? Had an impact on our beers, right?
Yep. Had an impact
So
on
every,
impact on beers.
everything,
There's
bourbon.
that. Well, there's the one that I don't believe it had an impact, which I haven't found
Wine.
anything that states one way or the other. There's wine, yeah,
Yeah,
because
so
everything
people could
else.
afford it. It was grape juice.
Yes, it was grape juice with a kick.
Yeah, but you could be
But
prescribed bourbon, but you couldn't be prescribed beer.
no, you could be prescribed bourbon, but
hmm
wasn't called a bourbon. It could not be called a bourbon. It had to be called a whiskey or a spirit. And there was 15 distilleries that were approved to apply for the license
hmm
to continue, but only
hmm
nine
Well, yeah,
actually did. Only nine actually
yeah.
went through and applied and got approved on that.
And
But
one of
that's it.
those is still around. One of those still around. So that was another fun fact I had And you
Mhm.
even shared that with me. So 1933, the president, and I believe it was Roosevelt, signed into effect that beer can be made, but it can only have 3.2% alcohol. I am not sure when that changed. So here is a question. I can't see the comments, so you're going to have to read those to me, Mr.
Okay.
Graybeard. Here's my question for the audience. Do I have a feeling someone's going to Google it? So try not to Google it, just guess. What was the first, or who brewed the first craft beer? Who brewed the
Hmm.
first craft beer?
Who brewed the first craft beer? Interesting. We've got a whopping three people on. So come on, three.
Come on, y'all
Let's
share. What
don't
three?
make me call
Y'all,
don't make me
yeah.
call someone out because the only person that will be able to call out is Bert because Bert's the only one that's made comments. Let us know you're here.
Yes. Who is the first? Who craft? Who made the first craft beer?
So let me ask you this question as a follow-up then.
Hmm.
Um, is
And
that
what year do you
brewery
think it was?
is that brewery still brewing, and would they still be considered a craft brew?
Yes and yes.
So they're still brewing.
They're still brewing.
Okay, so Bert says Jack Jack McAuliffe.
No. I'll give
Uh,
you a hint. I'm gonna give you a hint because when I give you this hint, you're gonna guess. You're gonna know. Pennsylvania. There you go. Pennsylvania. They come out with this Hershey Stout or Porter every year, and they will not sell it east of the Mississippi. I mean, they'll only sell it east of the Mississippi, not west of the Mississippi.
and they're just now kind of researching as a kind of rebuilding their name,
Hmm.
and
Yes,
so
but
so
they're
so
still
Bert
considered a microbrewery.
Bert came back and said with New Albion Brewing, and then he came back and said Yuling.
Yuling and Son. They were the first ones to make a craft beer, and that was in 1829 that they did that. So then they were the only micro craft brewery that did special beers, different things. They had that pure flavor. It was, really good. Then in 1860, Minnesota came about. Then
Minnesota.
Minnesota. They don't have soda. They had craft beers. They were the second state. So then 1945, World War II is ended, right? So soldiers are coming home and all the breweries, there was about 200 breweries, local place. And I don't even want to say it was 200 breweries, but there was enough breweries that wanted to kind of give them a welcome home package kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So they made welcome home beer for the soldiers in 1945. And then that's kind of when their hometown did this to support it. So it supported the economy, it gave a lot of them jobs, and it also they provided them with the beer to say thank you for serving the country. So I thought that was really interesting.
I'll drink to that. I got a question
Yes,
for you, okay? Before we
yes, I might
get
have an
further
answer.
down, you like I said, I'm interviewing you because you have your facts and you got it down. Um, okay, so beer is really huge. Freezing here. Okay, I'm back. Um,
Okay.
are you there? Can you see
Yeah,
me? Can you
yeah,
hear
I'm
me?
here.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh,
Okay, now you froze. I should really take a picture because he looks like a statue. It says we're still live, so I don't know if y'all can see me. I'm about tempted to kind of.
this is okay.
There you go.
I'm back. I don't
Okay.
know why my Wi-Fi is not liking me. So my question is, beer is really huge over in Europe. Especially
Hmm.
Germany and Ireland and such. do they have a classification of craft brew? And if so, is it the same as America, or is this only a really American thing and everything is considered craft brew?
I, I am not. I think they have. It's not exactly the same like a crafted, but they do have their special beers. I don't know exactly if they call it craft beers, but they do have it to where it's only like microbreweries do that. But I don't think
Okay.
it's called a craft beer because you have your breweries of America, which is for craft beers. It's for the smaller microbreweries. And when we talk about microbreweries weren't really introduced until the 1990s. We sit there and think about it. We think that they've been around forever, but they didn't really come about till the 90s because it was like some like local beers, breweries did it, but it was mainly like the local communities that supported it and they used did it there. And then I'm gonna tell you where beer really took off, and this is to answer Bert's question. The the state that has the most microbreweries is California. 1965, California came onto the scene for microbreweries, and so they started popping up in California where they were focusing it, and
Okay.
they're the ones who kind of like did the pale ale. Like they experimented more. They did more of like the sour beers. They were doing more of the flavor beers. Like they, I don't know if it's because of the cannabis that was out there, the free spirit. I don't know, but they invented more. Like they came up and created things and made it their own. And then in '76, we started having do DIY home kits where where people were starting to make beer at home, and it was technically they sold them, but they were illegal. So get that. You can here's a kit, but it's on the down low. Don't say it. And then home brewery, because so many people were doing it, became legal in '78. So that's kind of the crazy thing. But here's the insane thing: is in 1985 there were only 100 breweries,
Really?
micro like what we consider microbreweries, right? There's only
Yeah.
100 breweries that made crafted beer.
So Bert comes back. California has the most microbrews or craft breweries, but per capita is Vermont, and yeah, that
Oh
was going to be
wow.
my answer. Vermont has, for every 100 people in Vermont, there's 50 microbrews.
Wow. I think I need to go up to Vermont.
I think it's time for a road trip. Let's take Twisted Pair on the road, people.
Woo-woo. So, and then 10 years or 11 years later, there was 1,000. So from 85 to 96, that's when the microbreweries took off. So remember when I said in the 90s?
Yeah.
In 96, we had about 1,000. And then because they were becoming so popular and people wanted to take the beers home, this is what started happening. Do you see our beautiful cans right here? They were
Mm-hmm.
not called cans. Here's the crazy thing. They called them crawlers. Even though this is like when you picture a crawler, it's got the cork at the top, and it it could hold. I think it was like 16 to 32 ounces is what it was, but they might have put them in a can, but it wasn't. That's why they have the bigger cans, is so you can enjoy the beer more. So that didn't come about. Here's the crazy thing: crawlers didn't come about until 2014 for beers. And here's the thing, if you have a crawler, like I have a jug that I have and you put the top on it, you
Mm-hmm.
need to drink that beer within like a week. 2 weeks is pushing it because it starts to go flat and it loses and the chemicals don't mix the yeast. It's not very good. And then in 2018, we had over 7,000 breweries. So, and now I think we're up to almost 10,000 microbreweries in the US.
Yeah, Bert says Bert be smoking on YouTube. So we have
Right.
Albert on Facebook, and
Mhm.
we have Burt B. Smoking. It's funny how their pictures look oddly familiar. Uh,
Mhm.
it says in 2022 there's
9,005.
9,552.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: how
Mhm.
many do we have in DFW?
Um, and here's the thing about the DFW is like it may seem like we have a lot, but the thing is, it's the same ones that are over. So you have Revolver, right? You have several revolvers right there. Then you have Dallas Brewery. Then you have like the Four Corners. Then you have Martin House. So I mean, we have a ton in the DFW area, but a lot of them, there's like 4 or 5 of them.
Right.
It's not just that one. Does that make sense? So we even have some that are coming from the West Coast and Colorado. Colorado is um, another place that has a lot of them. Minnesota, New York, Delaware. That's another place. So you have your East Coast and your West Coast, but like in the central area, I would say DFW, Texas, probably has the most out of that area.
According to hopculture.com, there is 60 microbreweries in DFW.
There's how many?
60, 60.
Yeah. And
It's really windy up here. I hope you're not.
yeah.
Are we getting a lot of
No, I
wind
can
through the
I can
mic?
hear you.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say, so here's my thing is I know that my wrapper binder and fillers are Corojo. Um and so I I wasn't sure how I thought it would pair really good because remember I said this is an orange. So like but this is like not over the top orange. And let's see. This is about 16 ounces, 5.2% alcohol. Um, and
5.2.
here's the thing. Yeah,
That's coming in low.
it's weak. Yeah. So if you ever see these things, it's funny because like my daughter one time asked, like, why is there weed? No, this is hops, people. This is what goes is like the main thing of the what goes in your beer. It gives it its flavor. And then there's the oranges right here. So like they have fun decorating the cans. That's one thing. And here's the thing: is craft breweries actually help with the pull tab.
Yeah,
Mm,
they help. Bert's got a good pairing there.
yeah, that's like a Candela. That's one that is a go-to. Corojo, Dominican, um, Habano, Honduras, Dominican, Corojo. Those in Candela. Those are really good to pair with your IPAs, your L's, your heavy citrus brew beers.
Yep. And and since I'm going with a much different style of a beer in a stout,
Hmm.
you're gonna want to go with a bit more of your stronger intense
Hmm.
your stronger intensity on note flavors. So your chocolatey, your um,
Leathers.
your leathers, your peppers, your spices,
Hmm.
your creamy notes. Your really dark, heavy creamy notes. So think about you can go with the Honduras Habano, Nicaraguan Habanos, most of your Nicaraguan cigars, your San Andres, your Cameroons are all going to go
Hmm.
really good. If you're going to go with a Corojo, Criollo, or a broadleaf, then you're probably going to want to go with one that has a bit more Lajero in the blend,
Hmm.
or has been fermented longer and to bring out a lot of those sweeter notes and less of the floral grassy notes.
Yeah. And another thing I was going to talk about is we've kind of talked about it before, but it's been a while. Um, if you're going to get like bottled beer. I'm gonna kind of talk about that. You want the bottled beer that's dark in color like that because that cannot let the most light in. You do not want to let a lot of light in because it will change the flavor. Just kind of like with wine, it
Hmm.
will impact your beer as well. So, for if it's a light, if it's a clear bottle or a light bottle, I am not going to drink that beer. Just
If
telling
you
you.
don't have a choice, then make sure it stays. You're going to want to keep it in your refrigerator, but you don't always
Hmm.
have to keep your darker beers in the fridge, just in a
Right.
cool, drier place. But
Hmm.
yeah, if you're drinking a lighter beer like a lager or an ale, keep them in the fridge, especially if it's got a clear bottle. That way, there's no possibility for sunlight to come in,
Get it.
and
And
because it
that's
will
why.
impact.
And that's why most beers they come in can because they can stay in the can longer. They have that pressure, that's the right amount of pressure. And here's the crazy thing: is craft breweries actually came up with the pull tab for the cans.
So why did they come up with the pull tabs?
So I'm not sure. I just, I didn't. I want to say because you could fill it to the max, keep the pressure down, and then you have your beer to go. I don't know. That's my logical thinking. It's probably not right, but hey,
Okay, so Bert's got a question here. He's asking when did IPAs come onto the scene, and in that when IPAs came onto the scene, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what is an IPA, how does that differ from a BPA, and what is the difference between, say, like your lagers, your ales, and your stouts.
now see, now you're getting into the things where like I remember reading it, but let's see if I remember it, kind of a thing. It mainly has to do with the hops that are used, the amount of hops and the malts that are used in it. So, and then there's different types of hops that give different type of flavor notes to it. So your Indian Pale Ale is what your IPA is, right?
Hmm.
So you're going to get more of like that citrus notes. The hops that they use are going to be more. It's more of like a hazy color. A lot of people say it's kind of like a like. Do you see mine? It's like a yellow right here. It almost
Yeah.
looks like pea. That does not look appetizing, but it's more of a brighter yellow, and it's got you can't see through it. It's kind of cloudy. So there's thus it's hazy, and they usually use like hazy hops for them.
And I want, if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say that your ales don't use as much of your malted barleys, and
Right. It's more of a
whereas
hops.
yeah, it's definitely more hoppy. Um, where your lagers and your stouts come from the same family, they use
Hmm.
more of the malted barleys, and the lagers come
Right.
from the top of the vats, and the stouts come from the bottom of the vats, and so that as
Right.
you're filling that top to bottom, you're coming through
Hmm.
what has had time to uh, ferment a little bit longer,
Right.
and that's why
Yeah,
you'll
stouts
see.
are fermented a lot, and that's why they're a lot darker, too. And it
And
depends on like the barley that they're using, you know. So, but it's like when you're going for the Indian Pale, it's a hoppy. That's why I said it's a hoppy. You'll see
yes, it's
hops.
it's very hot. That's why a lot of people are,
They don't
you
like it. They're not
like
turned on to the
IPAs
flavor of it.
or BPAs, Belgian Pale Ales, and it's just
Yeah.
I don't know what they came up with those names because they came from India or Belgium, originally,
Yeah.
that style. I don't know, but a lot of people don't. The people that don't like them is typically because it's much more hoppy. Even
Right.
when you're taking the same
And
color,
grapefruit.
it's yes, grapefruit, a
Hmm.
lot of citrus. And even though the color of it is going to be similar to that of a lager, the lager's got
Hmm.
more of the barley in it, which kind of
Right.
evens out that hoppy, even though they all have hops.
Right. And you explained it better because in my mind, that's what I was saying in my mind, but it didn't subscribe over that way. So uh, for that one, then you have like you have let's see, because like you have your reds, you have your ambers, your ambers, which is your red. Then you have your blondes, and my thing is I love. I'm not saying it just because I'm ash red. I really love a red because you can have red, um, and a lot of people think it's going to be dark and heavy, but it's not, and you're going to get more of a barley in on the reds than you do on like your blondes, if that makes sense.
Yep. So
So,
Bert B. Smokin, who's now coming to us from YouTube, it is he is our wonderful
mhm.
Google searcher, and I'm going to. This one comes from Wikipedia. Says that the style of pale ale, excuse me, which became known as India Pale Ale, was widespread in England by 1815 and would grow in popularity notably as an export beer shipped to India, which was
Mm,
under the control of the British
Indian shipping, I bet. The British
East
East India
Company
Company.
until 1850 and
Yeah.
elsewhere. Yeah.
And
So
British,
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, and Britain is like big on the beer. You think about like beer, but a lot of people think about Ireland's the pubs, Guinness and all that stuff. But if you think about who has control over Ireland and all Scotland and all those places, it was Great Britain.
Uh-huh.
And so, and there was a here's one beer has there was one time in England that a horse was carrying because they used to carry the beers in oak barrels, you know, and they were transporting the beers, and the cart broke. Several hundreds of thousands of gallons spilled out. And I actually have this on one of my did you know facts, and it killed 8 people. Majority of those people drowned in beer.
Well, at least they drowned happy.
Yeah. Because I was just like,
I'm sorry,
because
that was
someone's like,
bad.
has beer, yeah, has beer actually killed people besides like the drinking and the driving? So yes, it has. But it actually caused like a major accident.
I wonder if the
You would never
driver.
think about drowning by beer, right?
No, it wouldn't. I think I would rather drown by whiskey, but
Yeah.
I
So
think I
that
think I think I would probably die from alcohol poisoning before I actually drown because I would try to drink my way out of it.
yeah.
I'm
But I'm
sorry,
gonna say this
being
is going.
disrespectful.
I was gonna say my pairing is going really, really well. Um, it is, you know, it's blood orange. That is one of my favorites is blood orange. Um,
Hmm.
that they use. So if you ever have a chance to get a blood orange uh L, I would totally recommend that you try it. So,
I my pairing is going good. Now I couldn't tell you the flavors of either other than the flavors of in the beer because the Goose Island barrel aged.
is heavy. Yeah.
It's heavy and it's just got some beautiful flavors, but this cigar is definitely standing up to it. Um,
It's
I
when you're I want to say when you're pairing, usually with IPAs, it's more of a complementary pair.
yeah,
It's either it's not something that's gonna change the flavor, something's gonna stand out, it's not gonna enhance it. It's just something that's you want to relax with, chill, and just enjoy each of its own.
it's very yes, it's very complimentary. And you know what's interesting? And uh, David Skelton, which I'm on the Texas Cigar Roadshow with him, and we do
Hmm.
pairings. And one of the things that I find really exciting is that I'm not the one that's bringing the pairings to him now. He's actually bringing the pairings, and then I'm talking through, and we're talking through it. And to
Wow.
see his palate has grown and his knowledge
Mhm.
of what to bring, what to look for in doing pairings has been
Yeah.
phenomenal. Well, in the episode that was just released this past Saturday, we did a beer pairing.
Mm.
And we did a beer pairing with the brewery is down there in Waxahachie.
Mhm.
And the cigar that we did, so it was a Texas pairing. The cigar that we did is a new
Mhm.
one coming out by McAuliffe that's not
Mhm.
being released until PCA, and it's called McAuliffe Black. And
Mm.
I want to tell you right off the bat now, and McAuliffe isn't sponsoring our show yet.
Yeah.
Um, we're going to work with them. Al or Lauren, if you're watching this, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But that McAuliffe Black is good. It's so good.
Mhm.
And the stout that we paired it with, I can't remember the distillery's name, but it's here in Texas, about 45, 50 miles south of where we are, and it's if that far. No, I don't think it's that far. But anyways, it was
It's
an
not that
imperial
far.
milk stout. It was an imperial
Yeah.
milk stout. So go and watch the show after we're
Mhm.
done. Not now.
Yeah. Not
Stay
right
here.
now. Don't jump on.
Not now. Stay here. One person. Stay, please.
Mhm.
Um, it it was really it was a really good pairing, and we talked about on the show there about how it was a nice complementary balanced pairing, and that's what
Mhm.
you're going to find is which is what you're
Mhm.
saying with
Right.
pairings with beers, because beers have such intense flavors.
But I'm gonna say if you're doing like what Barbie Smoking is doing, like if you're doing like a juicy IPA, is how we call it. Excuse me, because of the hops, and it's so intense. And if you do it with something that's got like that sweetness to it, it kind of offsets the two. So not and that's why I want to say is like the more hops that it has in it, you almost want to go sweeter with the cigar, kind of like that natural sweetness, like when I'm talking about like with the candela, and
Yes.
when I'm talking about with Honduras or Dominican, because like usually those kind of have those sweet hay notes to it that it's going to actually introduce new flavors to it. So I kind of want to put that little clause. So like with what I have tonight is it's kind of, I've said it's a blood orange, Hefeweizen, Hefeweizen. Always, it's kind of,
Scoot
there we
over
go.
this way a little bit. There we
There we
go.
go. There we go.
Whack and
So
brew.
yeah, Wackabrew. Um, because and also if you look at the alcohol, that's another thing is when you're looking at these because like we can go up to the alcohol. There's a certain cap and then it becomes something else. So the thing is if it's got the lower alcohol, you're not going to have the intensity of it as well. I want to say it's almost kind of like watered down a little bit, so the
Mm-hmm.
flavors aren't intense. It's going to be mellow, chill flavors.
Right.
But I almost went crazy and did a cinnamon beer. Now, because like they have cinnamon beers, they have the sour beers, they have all of that. I've had the pickle beer from one of the local Martin House has a pickle beer, and it's like shooting pickle juice.
Oh, my
Like
son.
yeah.
You know how John loves his pickles flavored
Mhm.
anything, and he loves his pickle beer. He loves his pickle moonshine. He did try a pickle flavored whiskey and couldn't do that one. But he loves his pickle stuff. But
Yeah.
what's interesting, what you're talking about, is because right now, with going with the Candelas, and your
Mhm.
IPAs, your double, triple hop IPAs, is because in the second episode, which is going to come out, I think in 2 weeks, that we did a double hop IPA that was a fruit. IPA, and I can't remember what it was, but we paired it with the Espinosa Wasabi, which is their Candela, and that was a really really good pairing as well. You're muted.
Sorry, we're locking up at the shop, so I was trying to like not have the safe codes and stuff going off. So I apologize. But okay, now you were saying like here's my thing about sour beers and all that stuff. I've had some that are pretty good, but it is so weird to me to drink a beer that tastes like a blueberry raspberry or something like that. I can't get into it.
Yeah.
I've had them, and I'm going to tell you, Martin House does a really good job, and they're known for their sour beers, just like the pickle beer. And that's kind of like the fun thing about breweries. It's kind of like if you look at meaderies and cider houses, they think outside the box. They take it, they push it, they see what they can do with it, um, and they have fun with it. They really, really do. But um, if I did do like a blue raspberry. They did a blue raspberry, and I did it with kind of like a creamy cigar. I can't remember what I did, and it was okay, but I ended up just smoking the cigar and tossing out the sour beer. I'm not a sour beer person. I
Which,
can't get. My kids like it. My kids think it's cool,
oh
but I
my
guess I'm
my
too old for that stuff.
yeah, my kids like it too, and I'm not a fan of it. Now the beer that we did, it was more of a grapefruit, so it was more of a standard, IPA
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
And what you were talking about, what we really noticed is that when we went from the cigar to the beer, the Candela really evened out those citrusy notes. So it allowed really more of the fresh cut grass, hay,
Mhm.
sungrass notes to come forward, whereas without it, just with the beer by itself, the citrus notes were really what came forward on it. So that was
Good.
really nice. Paul Hinman just confirmed, just confirmed what we've been saying
Mhm.
is that the British developed IPAs, and this is an interesting note that he's put in here afterwards, is that IPAs did not require refrigeration.
And if you go to breweries, well, first of all, like a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, like all that beer's there." So when you go into breweries and you see the thousands upon cans that are stacked, the beer's not in there. So don't freak out because a lot of people just assume that the beer's in there. The beer's not in there yet. But they do have a longer shelf life than like some of the other beers.
What's now? I've never.
But not as much as the main beers. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Because when you use higher quality stuff, it doesn't matter. Well, except for cigars are the exception. But like when it comes to like liquid stuff, when you use the higher, well, except for wine, I'm just gonna shut up now. Breweries,
It,
yeah, beer you can't.
so,
Yeah,
so I think some of the mainstream beers do add some kind of preservatives to allow them to have a little bit of a
oh,
longer shelf life.
longer shelf life. Yeah.
But what's interesting is that and I've never been to Germany, so I can't confirm this, but I have a number of friends who have been there, who live there, and have met a number of people who've come here, and and will drink the stouts, especially when my early on days when I was just drinking black and tans, which is a red is a
I don't
red
even know what that
and
is.
a black and tan
I've
is
never
Guinness.
had one.
So black and tan is Guinness stout covered with layered with a typically a red. So like a
Okay.
Killigan's red and amber bock, something like that. So the
Okay.
bock is in that red family, and and that's where I really got introduced to the darker, heavier beers, and absolutely
Right.
love it.
Right.
But you
And not
always let
everybody does.
but you always let them come to room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And so by letting them come to room temperature, it really allows the body of the beer to kind of open those flavors up.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so, in Germany, I'm assuming, because that's what my friends tell me, you go to a tavern there, and the beer that you're getting is coming out at room temperature.
Right. But they put it in the frosted mug. And
Yeah,
so, and that's where the frosted mug comes in. Now, because I didn't have a handle on mine, I did not freeze it. But in my refrigerator, I have about 8 handle frosted mugs for my beer
I
that
don't have a handle
I have
on mine.
on yours. Yeah.
Let's talk
So,
about.
but you
Can you?
didn't freeze yours.
No, I didn't. But can you talk a little bit about the glasses and why the glasses are important for the different types of beers?
Okay, so it's kind of like, whenever you have a stout, it's heavy, and here's the thing, is like you can smell your beer. And like on mine, I'm not gonna get like anything, but like if you smell your stout, you're gonna get the chocolate, the coffee, you're gonna get aroma on it, right?
I get a little bit of black cherry in this too, and I'm getting that on,
Hmm.
on the palate as well, which
Yeah,
which this
yeah,
is beautiful. But anyways,
yeah. So it's kind of like it's kind of like the wine. It shows it off. It allows you to open up your senses to it. So when you have a regular beer, IPA, ale, whatever, you don't need to really have the senses, the smell to it, because it's not going to have like a strong smell like a stout would. So
so
whenever you have your stouts, usually they're served almost kind of like a wine glass, but it's kind of like, curvy, and then it's got the
kind of like in that tulip shaped glass
tulip. It's in a
to allow
tulip
the
shaped
aromas
glass.
to be directed up.
Right. So when you
Interesting.
have when you have your beer, if you're not drinking out of red solo cup, a lot of breweries will serve it like a can almost, like this. So I have several of those. But I and this is a thinner glass as well. So it doesn't go in the freezer. Just because it can crack.
Yeah, mine
So
is too.
so it's more of like the aromas of it. So beer, like even crafted beers aren't picky about what kind of glass they're served in. It's normally like a cylinder because you don't have to enjoy that
Right.
smell and get that for
You
the
we typically
aromas.
see them like at the breweries, so like in what we would call the pint glass.
Hmm.
Even in
Or
going
mason
to
jars. A lot of breweries
oh,
are
a lot
doing
of
like the
mason.
mason jars, things like that, or the little flight ones. Um, so that's why is because in a lot of things is if you have a hazy IPA, even if you put it in a glass like this, that smell is going to get to you. You're going to
Yes.
smell it. So that is that's mainly like the main reason is for your stouts. It's kind of it's almost like stouts are made, and also you're going to see your stouts are a little bit more expensive. They're heavier on the alcohol, heavier, in the fermentation, the yeast, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
this is like a $20 bottle, and it's
hmm
coming in at 15.4%. So I mean, this
right.
this is this is really coming into the ABV that wine would be in. That now
hmm
I got a question. This kind of fits along with Bert's question because I know that you do a lot of your smoking, your grilling with beer.
hmm
Could you cook with this beer, or is there a particular kind of craft beer that you would
Usually,
want to use to cook with?
and here's the thing: is stouts come in glass. You're not going to sit there. A glass is not going to withhold that heat, from a smoker at that long
Right.
time. So you don't cook with a stout on that. Like unless you like, for example, there's a reason why it's called the beer can chicken because the beer can withstand that. It comes up in it, so it can withstand that heat. So I would say like a stout, like that's more of like let me pour it in there to add some flavor to it, but I'm not going to be able to smoke some meat with it.
Okay, so
It's
when
kind of
you're
like
doing,
wine. Like whenever you're making something with wine, you would pour it in there and you would
yeah.
do it at a lower temperature versus what you might do with a beer.
So like you said with wine, when we cook with wine, we typically do like a white wine or a red wine reduction. So we're cooking it
Right.
in, we're letting it reduce a bit,
Hmm.
and allowing those flavors to meld into the flavors of whatever it is that we're cooking.
Right.
Like I
And it,
do a white wine reduction cream sauce a lot,
hmm
so it
but
melts
it's
in with
not
that
as
cream.
long.
No,
It's
no,
not as withstanding.
it's very quick.
Yeah, like beer can chicken is normally 3 to 4 hours, depends on the bird, what woods you're using, how fast you're cooking it, the temperature. I mean, there's so many different things that go into play. So, like my thing is like usually if I've done blood orange beer can chicken, where I make a rub sauce that goes more of like the orange, orange flavors, things like that, and whatever I put with it is going to be complementary. I've also done an IPA with it, a Mexican, I've done a Mexican lager with it. And so I'm going to make a Mexican rub that goes with it as well. So, and it does make the chicken a lot more juicier. It does add that, and then you can add some of that flavor to it, but it's not overpowering as where you're going to have your wine. See, wine can be very overpowering whenever
Hmm.
you're cooking with it, and you
So
can taste it,
you
kind
you
of like
you
rum. Same with rum.
right. You brought out something else that kind of brings out another question for me. We see a lot of like you've got your Japanese beers, and you stated that beer
Hmm.
really originated from Japan. So you've got some really beautiful um, Japanese style beers, and then we're seeing a lot of the good um, Mexican style beers, and I don't count Dos Equis as one of them, or some of the others, but
Corona.
yeah, Corona. But there's really good, some really good. I think they call them cervezas. Is there a
Hmm.
difference in the way that they make them from Japan to Mexico to America, and here in the Americas, the northern Americas?
I know that Japanese does does something different as far as like Mexican. Um, not I've had a couple of Mexican lagers, but they're it's kind of like the same way that we do our beers. Kind of like the same
Okay,
from
really
that
the same
aspect.
same process. Okay.
Same process. So it's kind of like, whiskey and scotch, how they have this process.
Hmm.
But I think every region, every state, and every brewery, and this is the beautiful part about microbreweries, is they tweak it to make it their own. They do something a little bit different, like Lakewood. They do things that are different with their beers versus if I'm somewhere else. If that,
Yeah.
versus like Martin House, you know, and it's even state to state. I mean, like within the state, So Lakewood is, North Dallas. Martin House is Fort Worth. Then you have Tubbs Brewery. Then you have Four Corners. Then you have Dallas. So they each do something different, and they kind of like specialize in one specific area. So like when I think of Martin House, I think of sour, you know.
Yeah.
When I think of Lakewood, I think of classical. Like they do like s'mores, they do an Oreo, they do a thin mint. So they're going outside of the a peanut butter. So they're going outside of the box, but it's not like towards the sour aspect of it. And they do have a sour beer, but theirs is more, I want to say, it's not as contemporary as Martin House. Then you have Four Corners, which is kind of like what you're going to experience. Like it's kind of like I want to say almost kind of like a typical what you would expect a typical beer to taste like, except for it's going to have the best ingredients, if that makes sense.
Another local distillery that really turned me on to IPA, and this was back when we did our IPA pairing last year, and
Mhm.
that is Turning Point,
Mhm.
which is not far from me here, in Bedford, in the mid cities area, and Turning Point really has specialized in IPAs. And they've got a good stout, but
Mhm.
they've got a triple hops IPA, which is the one that I featured on our show, which
Mhm.
just blew my mind, and we paired it with the Candela. I paired mine with the Candela. You did yours with a different one with the Candela
Mhm.
pairing, and I was really blown away by just the quality of it when the brewery is in a shopping center. It's
Mhm.
like in a little shopping strip. And you walk in and you've got the stills, you've got all the vats, you've got all of the oak barrels where the beer is aging a little bit and such.
Mhm.
I was really impressed with that. So it's fascinating how many variations there is. My battery
Yeah.
is almost dead, and I've got it plugged in.
Oh no. I
Oh,
do want to.
there
I
we
do
go.
want to talk about. There we go. I do want to talk about my nerdy shirt because, like, this is a brewery out in, like, one of those strip. What you're talking about in a strip mall. I mean, it's amazing where you'll find the breweries. It's like insane, crazy. So, this is out in San Diego. Is Quantum Brewery. And so I have a periodic table, and it's got BE as an element and then ER as an element. And then it says on my shirt, I drink beer periodically, so I just have to do that. But a lot of breweries are also expanding with seltzers. They're kind of going that route. So it just kind of depends on the brewery and what they specialize. Oh, and I'm there by myself. And hopefully Graveyard can come on. But I don't know. Are y'all able to still hear me? Like, I'm not sure. Burpee Smoking, can you hear me? Yes or no?
I can
Are you
hear you.
there?
I'm
Okay,
I'm back.
yay. Okay, you're back. So I was saying,
My
like,
internet completely died.
it's because the weather. It's the rainy weather. We're getting crazy weather down here in Texas. But like I was telling about Quantum Brewery is a brewery down in San Diego, and one of their beers that they have that I love is called Red Velvet, and
You
it's a
told me
seltzer.
about them. Yes, you
Yes,
told me about. And I'm not a
it.
big seltzer fan.
I'm not either. Like I'm not one. Like I actually thought I was like it's kind of like a lighter beer. I thought it was a lighter beer with a little bit more like bubble to it. And then I'm like, huh, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, it's a seltzer. It's really good. So, but it tastes like red velvet. And that's like one thing is like when you have your oatmeal stouts and you have your peanut butter stouts, then you have your thin mint. The crazy thing is beers taste like that. It's got those flavors and elements to it. And so, like, some beers can be desserts. It's like, I mean, that's how I look at it, is like it's a dessert beer.
Yeah. So you have your dessert beers, you have your dessert wines, which you can,
Hmm.
for a dessert wine, like a chocolate dessert wine, even
Hmm.
coming into ports where you can add flavors to it,
Hmm.
to create a particular type of profile that you're looking for. And, and you can still call it a wine or you can still call it a beer.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I find that's interesting, that's different than the spirit industry, because for Irish, Japanese, and Scotch and bourbons, rye, and wheats, you can't add any flavors to it.
Mm-mm.
You can add colorings to the prior three, but
Right.
not to bourbons with bourbons
Right.
or as soon as you add a flavor to it, in America, it's now called a whiskey, and it has to be labeled as a flavor whiskey. And the only
Mhm.
classification of a spirit, of a whiskey, that you can add a flavor to it and not have to change how it's classified is a Canadian. So like your
Right.
Canadian rice, your oh, I can't even think of the big Canadian whiskey, Crown Royal, or
Yeah, Crown. Yeah, Crown.
Crown.
Yeah, Crown Royal. Yeah, Crown.
Crown Royal, where you can add apple and peach and whatever flavors to it,
Yeah.
and it still be considered a Crown Royal whiskey.
Right.
Jack Daniels, who has their apple flavored. As soon as they add the apple to it, it's no longer considered a Tennessee whiskey. It's now considered an
Right.
apple flavored whiskey,
Right.
which is interesting
Yeah.
that you can do that, and I think that me being the kind of that whiskey purist, I don't like my flavored whiskeys, and there's a market for it, and,
Yeah.
and it's just not for me.
Yeah, and that's what I would say is like, you know, I will say my children would rather have the flavored whiskey versus the whiskey that I drink, because I think the flavor takes that edge off,
I
and so that's why they enjoy it. You don't get that woo in your face,
that's interesting about that. Um, and I don't know that I'm a fan of the different flavored beers, but I haven't had a lot of them. But before we had technical difficulties, I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you another question because we were talking about seltzers.
Mhm.
And we've got seltzers, we've got citruses and different types of stuff like that. How does that differ from beer?
It's with the process of how they're making it. It's more of it's kind of like because like you do have your like for example the red velvet that's got like a high alcohol to it, so it's
Okay,
not by alcohol content or anything. It's just the process of making it. It's like how they're making it and what goes into it. I'm not like a seltzer queen because like I was like ugh, when I think of seltzer I think of one brand in particular, the oh you know
yes, yep,
and are truly, and I kind of make fun of my kids for it. But if you get, but see, those are, it's not a, it's not like a microbrewery that's making it.
gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think you get more of the flavor versus the naturalness of when you have a seltzer.
Well, and
It's
and
like
we have
liquid candy.
there's other different styles that fit into play, and
Hmm.
just speaking of White Claw, I love that one meme that kind of goes along with the one with the cigars. It's like, oh, so your dad drinks White Claw? Well, happy Mother's
Happy
Day to
Mother's,
him.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's a funny meme. And if that's what you enjoy, great.
Hmm.
That's what you enjoy. Um,
Like
there's been
it's
like,
kind of like it's for a summer. It's not heavy on the yeast, so to speak. And so usually if it's a heavy yeast, most people are like, bleh. You feel like you had a whole meal. Like with
right.
your stout, you are going to probably feel full afterwards
I, I'm
after you drink it.
I'm already starting to. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so all
It's not
beers
as
are
heavy on the grains, if that makes sense.
right. No, it does. And where my train of thought is kind of going, and I'm just all over the place because I'm learning so much, from you on this, and I'm so glad that we can, we're finally doing a show that features what your specialty is. We've talked about how the three of us each have our different areas of specialty.
Hmm.
I specialize in wines and whiskeys. Primarily wines and whiskeys. You specialize in coffees and beers, and Spice Man Matt specializes in
Moonshine.
food and moonshine.
Moonshine.
Oh, his moonshine is just, well, we need to get him on here and do a special on
A
moonshine.
moonshine. I don't think I
But
could last for a moonshine pairing.
oh,
Woo.
only for drinking so much.
Yeah.
Um, but where my kind of train of thought is going is that I remember back in college, before I really got into drinking whiskeys and such, and was doing beers, and we would also do like hard lemonades, and so you
Mhm.
had your hard drinks, you had your,
Yeah.
Mike's hard ice lemonades and different stuff like
Mhm.
that, and
Yeah.
all of these fit in that
Beer
malted
category.
beverage category
Yeah.
because beer is a malted beverage.
Mhm.
Even though beer has hops as a primary ingredient, the malted barley, and that's the malt, is the beverage, is also a big
Right.
component of it. You have your other different malted beverages, like in your hard seltzers and your ciders. What do you know? Can you talk a little about any of those differentiations? Because you've got people that tend to go towards the seltzers, or tend to go towards the ciders, or tend to go towards the IPAs and the more
Right.
traditional beers.
And it's perfect because Burt B. Smoking just said both beer and hard seltzers are brewed and fermented with the sugar source when paired with the yeast that creates the alcohol. So this process means that the hard seltzer somewhat surprisingly falls into the beer category. So it's more of the sorry, the sugar that comes from it. And that's the beauty also of beer is it doesn't take as long as whiskey. You know what I'm saying? Like we can crack out a beer in a couple months. You know, seltzers we can
True.
crack out in a month or whatever. It doesn't take that long for all this stuff to marry together to produce that natural sugar that's going to come across that way. Well, as far as like when we're talking about whiskeys and things like that, it does take longer.
It takes it
And
takes
yeah,
longer
and
unless we're
right.
doing a white dog, which is just a whiskey that has
Hmm.
been distilled from a cereal grain mash bill,
Right.
just not aged in a barrel. And the
Right.
process that starts is the same, even in whiskeys. What
Hmm.
we call before it goes into the distillery. So once the mash bill has started the fermenting process, we call that the beer. And then we
Hmm.
take it through. Then we take it through the distillation to where
Right.
it's taken into a
With
vapor and then rehydrated. Um,
right.
but when you talked about the yeast and Bert brought up the yeast,
Hmm.
we malt the barley. So in other words, we take it to the point of where it breaks open, starts to flour, and then
Right.
we stop the process because that allows the enzymes to come up,
Hmm.
interact with the yeast, and start eating the
Hmm.
sugar, which is what creates the fermentation process of it.
Right. And then the flavored malt is, and he brought this up. It's like the Mike's Hard Lemonade and all that other. It comes with a premix. It's got a mix in it. That's already there,
Oh,
and that's why they're able to have those flavors that they have. Like, you know,
so
so
it's not infused like what we would do with like a flavored whiskey to where the apple flavor is infused into it, not added afterwards. It's
right,
infused into it as part of the distillation
yeah.
process.
So you have the like where the malting takes place, and then they add the premix to it, and then that's where it comes together.
And then it starts the fermentation process. And okay,
Right.
that makes sense. All right, so Bert did mention that our next challenge, we do have a guest on for our next
Yeah.
three shows, but our next pairing challenge be an Asian or Mexican beer with a cigar. So
Hmm.
we've done a lot
Yeah.
on food. Maybe we switch over and focus on beers, and maybe come back to some
Hmm.
coffees as well, because
Yeah.
I'd love
Iced
to.
coffee.
Yes, iced coffee. I would love to continue on with
Right.
you sharing your mass wealth of knowledge that you
Oh,
have in
it's
those
not
areas.
mass wealth. It is just I'm just on the tip of the
Compared
iceberg.
compared to mine on those, you have what I would consider a mass wealth of knowledge. I mean, I feel like I know quite a bit about beers. I know little about coffees other than what I've learned from you.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, don't cut yourself short. You have a lot of great knowledge. I mean, even in this show, I mean, we're an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't even know that we would be able to talk about all of this for this long. But I'm loving this. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing.
you're welcome.
You're not the co-host. You're the guest on this
I'm
episode.
the guest today, and and I will say it's neat that like for example, like I've been doing iced coffee, and that's probably why I'm just like, not my normal self. But like this morning, Lydia was like, "Mommy, I need some coffee," and so I was like, "Okay, well, we're gonna make some coffee." And I was like, "What do you want?" And so she's looking through all the different beans that I have, and she's like, "Oh, cannoli. I have cannoli." So when you're doing like an ice blended, like a blended coffee, you're gonna mix it in the blender and you're gonna add different things to it. I added oat milk, I added nutmeg, added a little bit of vanilla, and then I added powdered sugar to it and a little bit of brown sugar to it when I did it. And with the cannoli already, because I do Bones. I really like Bones coffee. They ship it, and it's fun to have the different flavored. So she wanted the cannoli, so I already had the cannoli, and I just took it and enhanced it. And that's the fun thing is like with coffee is you can always take it to another level
If
than
when
just
we do
drinking it black.
so when we do a nice coffee, it's gonna you're gonna have to come over and teach me, or I'm gonna have to have Morgan and Cooper teach me because they're always making iced coffee. And me,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm such a simple guy when it comes to my coffee. I mean, I do nothing but whole beans now. Thank you, Red.
you're welcome.
Um, and I mean, I do primarily Black Rifle, just because I love their coffee and I love what they support, and
Right.
their mission statement. And I've got probably 10 to 15 different flavors and different types of
Mhm.
Black Rifle coffee. In fact, I just got 3 new bags in today. But when it comes to making iced coffee,
Mhm.
to me, iced coffee is I brew my coffee, I add my creamer, I put it in a big glass, and I add ice to it, and I've got iced coffee.
There you go. That's
That's
all you
it.
need.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
When I do iced coffee, it usually is 24 hours, except for today we did blended coffee, which is you take it through the blender and you add the ice and all that stuff. So we needed the blended coffee instead of like the iced coffee. But so it's a little bit colder and it kind of helps when you're at temperatures of 100 and it feels like 120 outside. So we've kind of it's kind of it's funny. I'm even though I know how to get to the lounge, I always pull up Google Map because I'm like, is there going to be a shorter way? Because it's an hour drive for me. So and that's why I'm appreciative of the lounge just kind of saying, hey, just close up. You can stay. Just clean up and do that stuff because it's air conditioning and it's not in the heat of the garage. So, but it's kind of, I forgot where I was going with this because my train of thought is gone today. It just kind of fell off today. But but the map said excessive heat advisory in effect, and we've been like that at 3 or 4 days now. I think it's been over. We're on our second week, and this is just June. So I'm kind of scared of what July and August is going to have. So that's why
oh,
I'm thankful that I'm going to the Smoky Mountains to escape the heat.
oh. See, now I'm going to get jealous of you because
And then I get to taste some great moonshine while I'm up there.
Oh well, hey, if you we'll have to do an on the road show with moonshine while you're out on the road.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's not like where I was, where I couldn't get any reception.
Oh,
which
please, please, please no, because flying solo is hard.
yeah, it was insane when we went to Wyoming. It was just kind of like you could get like half a bar and you'd only get it for half a second or whatever. And then all of a sudden, and you knew when you hit that bar area because all of a sudden my phone's going ding, 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 ding. Like you
Yes.
have 50 messages. And I'm like, whoa. So, but it was, Lydia loved the mountains so much. She was like, hey, can we go back to the mountains? You know, she loved hiking. So that is what we are going to do is we're going to go back up to the mountains and relax and go to the Smoky and then the Appalachians and then this is actually where my family hails from. They hail from like North Carolina and then Virginia area. So and we did tobacco farming. So I'm hoping to kind of go back to kind of where I know some of the family farms aren't there. Um, some of them are. I just think it's kind of, and my dad reaches 90 this year. So it's kind
Oh,
of been
90.
big about seeing your genealogy. I can't say it. Where you come from, your family, and getting more into that. So it's going to be very interesting.
Well, our next 4 episodes, we've got a guest on. So our next pairing will be July 26th. So when are you going to be out and about?
I will be out like the 15th, and I'll be back, I think, the 24th. But then
Okay.
I leave July 5th for PCA,
Yes.
and
So
I'll be out there for that week.
okay. So July 5th, we have a guest. We have Casa 1910. The 12th, which you'll be you'll
I'll
just
be
be getting
flying
back.
back.
You'll be flying
Hmm.
back. We've got United Cigars. You
Okay.
know, which they're almost like a broker house. You know, where they
Hmm.
United Cigars has a number of different brands. You know that we're all familiar with. The 19th, which you'll be out and about, we have got Portello.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So we're
So
all very
hopefully
familiar
I'll
with.
have in the Rocky Mountains, I'll have reception. I'm not sure exactly. I can't tell you until I get there, but I should have Wi-Fi there at the house that I'm staying at. Um, so we'll see how it goes. And they have a fire pit area where you can partake in adult activities for the cigar. But I might be in the hot tub, smoking a cigar.
Oh, oh man.
So
So we're gonna have good scenery on the show at that time.
if not, you can look at the mountains. I'll just flip it around and
No,
y'all can look at the
that's
mountains.
what I'm talking. No, we want to see you. We want to see your beautiful face, your beautiful face,
So,
and your
so
long red hair.
my long
Uh,
red hair, yeah,
long red hair.
the pink. So, but I'm kind of excited to go back to like home roots, is what we call it, because like my grandfather was born in 1900 and he came to Texas in 1903. So we haven't been Texanated very long, but it's always an interesting story to find out where you come from, where your family, what they used to do, and all that stuff. So yeah,
It
interesting fun fact. I have an uncle who's named Ulysses S. Grant Robert E. Lee.
really.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what one uncle who's named Ulysses S. Grant Robert E. Lee.
Hmm.
So what do you
One great uncle. Yeah.
what what do you call him? Uncle
Um.
Bob,
No, we called him Uncle Grant.
Uncle Grant.
Yeah. It was my great uncle when he was like, and then we had Columbus. That's back when there was like 13. And the crazy thing is, was like they had, I think they originally had 13 children. 10 survived, but they had them to do the tobacco farm.
Yeah,
You
you.
had your children to kind of like, maintain your tobacco farm or whatever.
Now was that cigar tobacco or was that cigarette tobacco?
It was actually cigar,
So it was the
cigar and pipe.
black.
Yeah, it was about.
So
I think they had both because like whenever they had the ones for the cigars, but they also had the pipe, which is cigarette. It's made from the white.
it's
So
made from the white, right?
right,
Yeah.
but it was primarily made for pipes. It was not made for cigarettes, from what I've been
Which is
told.
still a different strain
Right.
of the white tobacco, but no
Mhm.
cigar is made from white tobacco. It's all made
Mhm.
from the black tobacco. What we could do, what
Yeah.
might be a fun episode after you've got your hours and when you're studying
Mhm.
to take this uh, asinine test that you have to take, maybe we
Yeah.
do an episode where we kind of go through a study and we talk about the detail because we've touched over the past and while you're out and about on the 19th, that's really is going to be about our second year anniversary because we started
Right.
this right around that time in July
Mhm.
two
Yeah,
years
July
ago.
like 26th or something like that.
It's something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah. Can you believe it's been 2 years already?
No, I can't.
It's
It's
mind
been a fun
boggling.
ride.
Oh,
Yeah.
it and so much more for us to do. Because we've only as much as we have covered
We've only hit
in
the tip of the iceberg.
oh we're just scraping the
Because if you
surface.
get into the different types of the tobacco, you have your ribbon, you have so many different things of pipes and how to pack a pipe and how to keep your pipe lit and the different pipes that are out there, the different stems. It's like insane about there. And that's like on one of the things of the CRT when you're getting your CRT is you have to know the different pipes and the different tobaccos that go into that pipe, the different cuts and everything.
We need to have Stephen from Tobacco Cabana on the show. Maybe go and do a live show from schedule something where we do a
Yeah.
live show from him because
Hmm.
he specializes in pipes.
And
In fact,
pipes.
he
Yeah.
just got back from a within the past month or so he
Hmm.
went up to the Indiana area for the big pipe festival
Yeah.
up there. And that's one of the difference between the tobacconist CRT,
Hmm.
which is what you're doing, what I
Hmm.
did, which is the IACS cigar sommelier. We don't touch pipes. We don't touch pipe
We
tobacco.
also have to touch hookahs.
We don't touch any of that. None of that we go
Hookah,
in.
like a lot of people don't realize it, but you have that tobacco in the hookah, right? But it's
Yeah.
infused with fruits and different flavors and things like that. So when you're working on your certified retail tobacconist, you have to also know about hookahs.
We need to do a show, and I'm just brainstorming on ideas for shows, and just because we've talked about how we're just barely, scratching the surface here.
Right.
Maybe do a show about, in this all of the different aspects of tobacco, from pipes to
Hmm.
hookahs to,
Right.
we don't want to promote cigarettes,
Right.
but focus on the pure tobaccos, the pipes, the hookahs,
Because right.
the cigars,
Right.
and maybe get into some things that come into the certifications that you and I really have gone through in getting certified in these different
Right.
areas. Including the wines and the in depth and the
Hmm.
spirits and the bourbon stewards and the in depthness that you have to go through and not what you have to study and learn
Right.
because it's what we have talked about and what one of our goals with Leaf and Grain is to come up with our own certified pairing expert
Hmm.
that covers all of these because
Hmm.
all of these come into play but we haven't even
Right.
done anything pairing with a pipe and
Yeah.
I'm excited about delving down into that side. I mean, my I've
Right.
got my pipe which I smoked once, and I think the tobacco's still sitting in it. And it's been maybe about 8 9 months since I smoked it
Hmm.
last. So when it comes to pipes,
When
I am
when
a
it's getting
newbie.
hot like this, when it gets like hot like this is where or too cold. I that is one thing that I will smoke in my house is a pipe because it's a good smell. It doesn't linger. It doesn't like because it's not as smoky as a cigar. Like to me, when I leave the lounge when I've been working, I don't realize how much of a cigar I smell, like how it smells. And even in my truck, I don't really smell it because usually on my drive home, I will light a cigar and smoke in my truck. And then I get into my house and I'm like, whoa, I smell like a cigar lounge. Like I have smoked 1,000 cigars or pipes or whatever. And here's another thing is like a lot of stores, like shops, lounges, do not do the piped tobacco on it, and the taxes are different for piped tobacco.
Really?
Yet, it is like insane. The taxes for the pipe tobacco is like ridiculously insane compared to cigars.
But much is it
So
higher or is it or lower?
it's higher.
Really? See,
Yeah,
I would have thought that it would have been opposite of that. That
yeah.
the taxes,
And I'll double check, but I think it's higher and it's harder to figure out the formulas and all that stuff. So a lot of people have just that's why they've done away with the pipes because of the tobacco and all that. I mean, the taxes with it is a lot. So usually you can order some companies include the taxes and they just pay for the taxes because the taxes are just such a headache to figure out. So there's certain pipe where you get your tobacco from that go ahead and pay for the taxes. So I mean, like I said, it's a whole different animal when you're dealing with pipes, especially with the tobacco versus what we have. And then when you start mixing the different flavors to get, then like each shop has their own little house brands that they have.
right?
So they mix different things. So and that was like one reason why I chose the cigar lounge, because they do have pipe tobacco here. They do the pipes and they have the different cuts of the tobacco. They have the ribbon cut, they have the straight, and like the different ones. And usually, if you're starting out, I'm going to suggest that you go with a ribbon because that stays lit longer. But there's so many times, and I know we're not going to talk about it, but like there's a way that you can have your pipe. A lot of people, what they do is they don't let the pipe tobacco dry out because it's very thick, heavy with moisture. So they just like take the tobacco and they just pack the pipe with it.
Right,
And you
right.
can't, you have to let it dry out.
Okay, so
So,
I didn't know that. So when I was taught, it's like you pack it down, you light it, and then you're
no,
continually relighting it throughout.
like I take my pipe tobacco and I get like a handful, well, a couple handfuls, and I do this and I put it on a paper towel and I let it breathe 15 to 20 minutes before I
Interesting.
pack it in my pipe. So that way it stays lit. And there's a certain way you pack it. You pack it like you have one third, two thirds, and then you have your final third.
Okay. So yeah,
And
we need.
you don't pack it like the first time you pack it real heavy. Second time, you don't pack as heavy. Third, you just kind of lay it on top and you let it light and you light it. So that's why I'm kind of I think we should totally do a pipe, and it works because you can smoke it in your house and the smell doesn't stick around and doesn't it's not as heavy, it's not as smoky. So
It's funny how you mentioned, when
my
you get
son smokes a
home,
pipe. He loves it.
what you
23
meant.
smokes a pipe.
Love it. You mentioned how when you get home you can really smell the cigar. So for me, the cigar smell retains it in my beard, and so
Yeah.
night, after we do our shows, and I'm about,
Hmm.
may light up a second one here in a minute, and I get go into bed, and my beard is right here. I can really smell it, and I've had to get the kids call it a purple shampoo, and I use it, purple beard
Because
shampoo, and I use it in my beard because my beard will start turning yellow.
yellow.
and I
Mhm.
never even realized that it does. Oh yeah, I savor the smells, savor the flavor,
Yeah.
savor the smell
Savor the
because
flavor. Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, that smells so good.
Yeah. And it's the same with hair. Like when I wear my hair like more like this because it's more open and it's more versus like a bun, my hair picks up those like it picks up those smells and it saves it. And it's funny because like my kids are like, "Why are you washing your hair? You're just going to go to the lounge and work the lounge, and it's going to smell like cigars again." And I'm like, "Well, you have to wash the grease out." So it's interesting about it. But the pipe, like if I smoked a pipe, I can't smell it on my hair. It doesn't hang out because it's not as smoky.
Yeah, the I think what I remember is that where we're used to bolder, heavier bodied cigars, and body is,
Hmm.
is how
Yeah.
the viscosity, the weight of that smoke, and how much smoke it is. I mean, I love a good cigar that
Hmm.
has just so much body, as you're
Right.
exhaling and blowing it out. Uh, I don't remember that being the case with a pipe, to
No.
where it was a really light,
Hmm.
light,
And
much
it comes from that
crisper
white.
smoke.
Yeah, it's like that's why it's like the white. It's considered white, a white leaf, you know, versus cigars are the darker. And it's not the color of the leaf or anything.
No,
I just want to kind of say that it's about the heaviness of the smoke and all that stuff. So
it's the leaves are all green on both of
yeah,
them, and I think
right,
unless you really knew your plants, it's
yeah,
to that level, you're going to hold them side by side, and you're going to go, okay, you've got a couple of tobacco leaves, or no, this is a white, and this is a
hmm,
black. They
right,
both look green to me.
yeah. So I mean, like, so yeah, I would love to do a pipe. I know that pipe is not it 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 went away and it came back like in the 20s 20
Yeah,
2000s, whatever we want to call it, where with cigars were came back. They made their they come back in the 90s, and then so I think pipes came back in 2000s. Where it recently got big again. So, but I know like my dad in the service, he smoked a pipe because it was more gentlemanly. Your officer smoked pipes. That's what he
my
would tell me.
I don't know. I don't remember if my dad smoked a pipe, and I was too young to know to really have memories of my grandpa. My grandpa
Yeah.
passed
Oh, my
away.
grandpa didn't. It,
My
my grandpa didn't touch tobacco, even though we had tobacco farms. That he was like, nope, not gonna do it.
so
He never let us.
your grandpa and my grandpa were both born around the same time. Mine was
Hmm.
born in 1895
Yeah.
and passed away in the 1970s. And so,
Oh, yeah,
I was really young at that
yeah,
time, and I remember him and remember the times, but I don't remember details
yeah. No, it,
around
it
him.
was like the devil's lettuce. That's what my grandpa called it. So, very nice. So,
So Joe got to
but I'm
sample
I'm
Gordon.
excited about exploring the different shows for next week and getting into different types of beers and things like that. I think that would be great that we can put that and talk about that, especially with pipes. You know, um, and it is hard to find lounges that do have piped tobacco. Just I'm just gonna say it. It's true with the taxes. It's
There's a
completely
few around.
it's a pain in the ass. Yeah,
So
very very
next week we've got Dorotero cigars.
okay. Very cool.
That's going to be on. That's I've got I've got them. We got them, from
Uh-huh.
when Zach went to PC or
Hmm.
TPE. But excited to learn about a new cigar for us both. I think
Yeah. Yes. Very excited.
we've had some
So
fun in the
I've had
recent
fun.
shows. Yes, it's
Yes,
been
we
fun.
have. So thanks for going along on the crafted beer journey with
I,
me.
I love it. I'm excited
Yeah.
to go down this path because we've hit whiskeys and we've done some on wines, not as in
Okay.
depth as maybe we can go
Yeah.
in depth on really delve into some wines.
Mhm.
see if we can get some wine people on the show. But this has
Yeah.
been a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Th- Thank you for joining us on the Twisted Pair tonight, Miss
Well,
Ashred.
thank you
With
for having me. Thank you for having me. So yes. So I appreciate it. And then tomorrow, if you're available on IG, I will be live with Doc Holland, Dr. Holland. We will be on, and they've invited me last week for a co-host, and apparently I didn't scare them off. They invited me again this week, so we'll see. I scare them off.
Tomorrow. So make sure that you post that
Yeah.
about that on our channels because we want
Yes.
everybody. We want to support our Ash Red as other people in the industry and in the media side, which was
Hmm.
obviously what the side that we're on is
Hmm.
reaching out to you and uh, asking you to come about. And I just love all of the exposure and recognition that
Hmm.
you're getting. It helps
Thank
you
you.
out, obviously. It helps us out.
Hmm.
And unless you're out there saying, yeah, I'm part of Leaf and Grain, but they're nobody as compared to what we're
No,
doing
and
here.
it doesn't go. It doesn't go like that. That they're always interested in, and it's different. Different formats. We have fun. Um, so so if anyone's thinking, oh my gosh, is she leaving Leaf and Grain? No,
No,
it's Leaf and Grain is with Graybeard and Spiceman and I, but we also each have our own identities in this industry as well. Just kind of like how you do your help out with Texas Roadshow and different podcasts and things like that. It's more about the exposure of this industry, getting the word out there and help providing knowledge to people as we
that's
say.
that's that's what it's all about. You
Hmm.
mentioned the Texas Cigar Roadshow, which everybody knows that I'm a
Hmm.
part of. Um, I'm on there as me of Leaf
Hmm.
and Grain Society.
Right.
Just like as you're doing the
With
others, as you
me,
were
I'm
with
Ash Red
Ashes
with Leaf and Grain.
with
Hmm.
Leaf and Grain. So
Hmm.
it's not just. I mean, we want Leaf and Grain to grow,
Hmm.
obviously, because we're building a business, and our
Right.
hopes and dreams is to do this full time. But even as Leaf and Grain is supporting us and the wonderful team that we have,
Hmm.
it's still always going. We're going to be intertwined with so
Hmm.
many else of the industry. So
Right.
as you're going out and doing other shows, I'm doing other shows. It's still it's still all the same thing that we're doing
Yeah.
with the industry, and that's growing the industry, growing the
Hmm.
culture, and Leaf and Grain will grow as a byproduct of that.
Right.
So it benefits
Right.
all of us, which is what
It
it's
it
about.
does. And one thing is like, it's like theirs is like about whiskey and cigars. That's what
Hmm.
the kind of base theirs around. And they promoted our show tonight. Like they shared it
Yay!
on their story, so it's just, I think it's like whenever you have different podcasts, different things, kind of like, how about that cigar? I know that Garrison's coming on, but he's coming on as the cigar part. But we've helped promote his show, he's helped promote us. So I mean, it's the thing that makes this industry unique is we support different podcasts, we support different shows, we support other things. It's not viewed as a competition. It's like, hey, get the word out there, spread the knowledge, and they do the same. So I appreciate the opportunity for them allowing me to come on. I appreciate Fuerte y Libre for recommending and making that connection happen. So it's a beautiful culture that wants to help everyone succeed, just to get the knowledge out there about different things. So that's what I think it is, kind of like with
Spe-
you and Dave Skelton.
Speaking of Greg Free and Fuerte Libre, one of our cigar reviewers, one of our writers, Joey G,
Yeah, who
as we
just
comment,
was on. Hmm.
whom we love, and he's been on our shows a couple of
Hmm.
times, and is
With the
always
Whiskey Network, which is with part of
Whiskey
you, so
Network.
it's all intertwined.
The
We've been on their show, you know.
well, Joe has just sent in his review of one of Fuerte Libre's cigars, which I haven't read it
Mhm.
yet, but I'm excited to see
Yeah,
it, and we're
I'm
gonna
excited to see
post
what
it.
he says.
We're
Yeah.
gonna post it up on the website probably next week. So please go out and check out our all of our reviews
Yeah.
on the
Well, and we also
website.
have new announcements like Cavalier Sebastian.
Yes, we got
Also,
news.
yeah, he did a press release with us for PCA about the new cigar that is in honor or in memory of his father with the inner circle. It was a beautiful story. You need to read about it. I'm excited. I think with everything going, I am extremely excited about PCA this year
I
going.
am I'm extremely excited about it as well,
Hmm.
and we've got we've had a couple of people tune in to us on YouTube.
Hmm.
Please go out to our YouTube channel and hit that like and subscribe and follow. Uh, whatever it
LinkedIn,
is that you do,
Facebook.
you know, you're going to help us out most by going out
Appreciate.
and viewing our content,
Hmm.
liking our Facebook page. Here's our Facebook page. Go out and like that.
Hmm.
Um, Follow us on Leaf and Grain Society. We are so close to
Hmm.
1,000 followers at our Instagram page. Please go out and follow
Yes.
that. And if you're active on any social media platform, if you post anything on social media platform about cigars, tag us and tag our hashtag Explore the Pairings and hashtag Leaf and Grain Society because
Hmm.
that's going to help us grow as well.
Yes.
All of that helps us grow.
Hmm.
The more viewers, the more subscribers that we get, the greater opportunity that we're going to have to be able to get sponsors for what we do and help us bring in revenue. Every single bit of revenue right now that we're getting in comes right back into the show, comes right back
Hmm.
into the Leaf and Grain Society, comes back into what we're doing. None of us
Right.
are getting paid. I'm not getting paid. Red's not getting paid. None of us are getting taking a
Mm-mm.
draw on this at all. So everything that you guys do to help us helps grow that and helps us grow. So please, please, please continue to helping us.
And I just want to say I look really cute as a craft beer can. That's all I'm going to say.
Or what? Yes,
From our
yes, you
graph,
do.
from our graphics,
Yes.
I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. Loved it. Loved your gray beard on there. I thought that was so cool. So outside of the box, that was probably my favorite one. I was super excited to post that one
I
today. So
well,
that was really
I
cool.
and I really loved the one that had all of the different craft brew cans,
Yeah, and
and then
even the rose time.
right in the center was a white one that had the Twisted Pair
Uh,
logo on it. It's like
yeah,
that would be such a cool beer can.
yeah,
Such a
it
cool
would
beer
be.
can.
Yeah. So, yeah. So thanks for to Burt B. Smokin for doing those awesome graphics. They're always appreciated. And he did a beautiful one for my dogs that ran away and came back. I asked him, I was like, hey, can you do a special one for my dogs?
Yes,
So
he
I
did.
appreciate that. Yeah. So, yeah. And if you haven't smoked Guardian of the Farm, Night Watcher, phenomenal cigar. Yeah.
Aganorsa, that's the
Yeah.
one that I smoked when we had Terrence
Hmm.
on the show, and
Great
it's
cigar.
just a great, great, great cigar.
Right.
Well,
So,
as you heard, everybody heard, we've got some great
guests
guests
lined up.
coming up
Hmm.
for the next 4 weeks. I mean, we've got some really good guests coming up.
Yes.
Really in the next 2 months, taking us into
Yeah.
August on it, and so
Yeah.
excited
And
about
I
learning
have
about them.
another one that's coming up for us too that I have
Oh,
to
is
let you know.
are,
So, yeah.
are you going to
So,
tell me offline, or are you going to make me wait
I,
again?
I will, when I get confirmation, I will tell you.
Oh my goodness. See how it is. I
Yeah.
find out just like a day or two before you guys find out, and now
No.
find
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But anyway, so I enjoyed it. Uh, I had fun. And again, thank you so much, y'all, for tuning in and going on the journey of crafted beer.
This has been a fun journey. I learned so much from you on this. I mean and I knew it was going to be me kind of interviewing you, and you almost like playing that guest role when you said crafted beer on it. But this has been fun. So
Yes,
thank you for sharing your knowledge with us on this, Red. Um,
yes.
I am blessed and honored to have you as a partner in this journey that we're doing with Leaf and Grain.
Well, thanks for having me. So I'm gonna let you do the thing, and I'll do my thing, and we'll say goodnight.
All right, let's do it. So be sure to tune in with us next week where we're going to have a guest on it. Um, but if you can't find your cigar, understand. Bring your cigar, bring your pairing.
Yeah,
Let us know what your pairing is. And until that next time, remember, as we always say, explore the pairings.
there's something for everyone. Good night,
Good,
y'all.
good night, y'all.